So I wanted to talk about an example and look at how answers to these fundamental questions, different theoretical approaches, lead us to very different policies in today's world. And what I thought would be interesting to you and relevant to many of you is looking at university and college tuition, which has become a major political issue these days and a significant burden on many college and university students. So what happened in the last 30 or 40 years, and why did it happen? So if we look at college tuition in the mid-1900s, there are a variety of ways of describing it, but my favorite way of describing it is that a student could attend a major state university and pay their entire tuition with a half-time minimum wage job. And so people in my generation often did that. We could go to a major school. We could pay tuition if we worked summers and worked half-time while we were going to school, and we could complete our education debt-free. In today's world, that's much less likely to happen, except at a very few exceptional schools. Ordinarily, the cost of tuition far outstrips the earnings that could be generated with a half-time minimum wage job, and most students who do not have significant resources behind them end up going into debt in order to pay for their education. We see here a real change in policy based on a different articulation of the balance in answers to our fundamental questions. So let's look at our fundamental questions. Let's look at the two theories we discussed, Marxism and social Darwinism, and see how through those lenses we come to different answers about what it is a college education is all about, who should pay for it, who deserves it, and who gets to benefit from it. So state institutions developed out of a general philosophy that an educated electorate was a good thing for the country. So this was not necessarily an investment just in an individual, but the state, the public, should invest in this because it was to all of our benefits that all of our children be educated and that as many children as possible, as interested, could receive the benefits of a college or university education. And that meant that most of our state institutions were very heavily supported by taxes. And in general, we used taxes to support a lot of things during that mid-period, just post-World War II, that were for the benefit of the general citizenry, higher education among them. So, what happened? As we see through a number of policies, but particularly through this lens on higher education tuition, there became critiques both of the amount of money it was costing and of whether it was appropriate for the public to support a high-cost service for individual students. And we stopped looking and talking so much about it as a public good and started talking more about it as an individual investment. At the same time this was happening, the cost of a college education to students was going up significantly and regularly every year. Nobody really appreciated the cost of college education going up, but there emerged an argument about what was causing it to go up. One line of arguments said that it was going up because universities and colleges were increasingly spending lots more money per student and not necessarily to the student's benefit. They talked about things like administrative bloat, like resting the expenses of the research endeavor on tuition from students. There were arguments like this, that colleges could tighten their belts and drive the cost back down. The other side of the argument said that it is clear that public investment in higher education was declining dramatically. And if you looked at the proportion of the budget of public universities that was being supported by taxes, that was going down significantly through this period. So, what's going on here? Well, in fact, if you look at the overall costs of educating a student, that means not just what the student is paying, but what the university is paying, what taxes are paying, what anybody's paying. The cost for educating a student indeed has gone up, but it's gone up at about the rate that cost of living in general has gone up. Certainly significant over decades, but not out of line with the increase in food and housing and transportation and other kinds of things. However, the cost to students, the amount they're paying in tuition, has gone up dramatically because the share of those costs supported by taxes has declined dramatically. And we have stopped talking so much about higher education as a public good and more about it as a personal investment that people as individuals should make a decision to either invest already accumulated value in or invest by going into debt. And that's why we have such a difference today in what it takes to get a college education and what it took before. We see here again in action the two different kinds of frames. And again, I'm oversimplifying. There are many other frames as well. A more Marxist frame that says the individual's rights and ability to be educated, ability to work, need to be supported publicly. They need to be supported by the laws. They need to be supported by the nature of the contract that we have between institutions and individuals individuals' ability to progress, to earn for themselves, to become educated, or in some terms more enlightened, is a general good that needs to be supported publicly, versus something that's a more social Darwinistic theory that says, just like every other element of the economy, access to education is a competition, and there will be winners and losers, and that's how our society works and strengthens itself.